Hey guys, and welcome back to Battlefront Updates. Today I want to talk a little bit more about Star Wars Battlefront 2 or the Battlefront sequel. I did a video earlier this week which did really good actually, and you guys gave me a lot of good opinions on what you wanted to see in the upcoming game, and as I promised in that video I would do a follow-up video talking about your opinions. So I decided to split it up a little bit and talk about vehicles in this video, and then I will have weapons and planets and heroes in other videos. I thought it would be a fun way to highlight what the community wants before the actual reveal. I know that they've probably already decided on which vehicles, heroes, eras and all that kind of stuff that will be in the game, but it's still a very interesting topic to discuss nevertheless. So I will be taking your answers no matter what era. It doesn't matter if it's the Old Republic or if it's Clone Wars, Original Trilogy, Sequel Trilogy, Rogue One or anything like that. I will still discuss it if it's something that the community really wants. So let's start off with a vehicle that I know a lot of people wanted to see in the Scarif DLC, but unfortunately didn't fit. It's the TX-225A Occupier tank, also known as the Imperial Combat Assault Tank. It's the tank we can see on Jeddah in the Rogue One movie, and it's something that was quite unique to Star Wars, and at least in terms of the movies, because it looked fairly similar to the tanks we have in the real world on planet Earth, and it didn't look too much like the tanks in the Clone Wars era, which I thought made it a little bit more exciting. It's also a very different vehicle compared to the AT-ST, which is the vehicle you usually see the Empire using during that era, so if they also had the Combat Assault Tank, it would completely change up the gameplay. It would make sure that you have different types of vehicles to fight against, since the AT-ST and AT-AT are fairly similar, but of course this also relies on the Rebels hopefully getting some vehicles, but I will get to that later in the video. Now over to another very highly requested vehicle that I think is probably my most requested vehicle as well, the LAAT gunship. I absolutely love this ship, both in the actual movies and especially in the old Battlefront games. I liked it because it was able to hover in the air, and it worked perfectly as a gunship because it had multiple people in it, two of them controlling the green laser beams, and then we had a pilot who could fly the ship and actually fire missiles. And then it's also able to transport a couple of people just standing in there with their blasters, which is also pretty cool. And it also brings me to the whole point of multi-seat vehicles. This is something that was highly requested by a lot of you, and it was something that was lacking in the current Battlefront game, and something that would make the gameplay a lot more fun. I mean, imagine being in an LAAT gunship together with 4 of your friends and absolutely destroying the enemy team. I think that would be a very satisfying feeling. The only problem though is that having too many multi-seat vehicles will take away a lot of people from the battleground and possibly make it very empty. So if they do indeed have some type of multi-seat vehicles, no matter if it's ship or ground vehicles, they need to make sure that they don't have too many seats in them or too many of that vehicle on the battlefield at the same time. Moving on, we have another very highly requested vehicle, especially from the first game, which is a Rebel tank. It's a kind of generic term, but there are multiple ones that exist in the legends, such as the T4B tank or the IFTT tank, which was available in the first Star Wars Battlefront games, and that would be a perfect counter for the AT-STs. I'm not sure why it wasn't added in the current game, if it's because it's not canon, or if they just didn't think it would fit. But I think that having vehicles that counter each other would be very good for the gameplay, and especially if we had something like the IFTT, because it's very different compared to the AT-ST. They both have their own weaknesses and strengths, so hopefully that is something we will get in the next game, and the Rebels will hopefully get some ground vehicles as well, and not only the Imperials. Next up, we have the B-Wing. Yes, I know it's in the current Star Wars Battlefront, but it isn't playable, and I think that's something that I really want, and apparently a lot of you want it as well. Because the B-Wing, in my opinion, is one of the coolest ships, because it has a very unique design, especially the fact that it can rotate around its own cockpit. And I really love that episode in Rebels where you were first introduced to the B-Wing and how powerful it was. So I hope that the B-Wing will be playable, and that it will have some unique abilities and not just feel like all the other ships in the game, as I think some very cool mechanics could be introduced, such as having a very long charge up time for the actual blaster, but then you would pretty much one-shot any ship you hit. That would be very interesting compared to the standard X-Wings or A-Wings. And then lastly, we actually have the AT-ATs. Yeah, I know they're in the current game, but surprisingly, it was actually one of the vehicles that you guys asked the most for. And I think it's a good point to bring up that although it was in the current game, that doesn't mean they should remove it for the next one. I really don't think they will do that, and I would be completely fine if they just ship them over from the current game, because there's not really much improvement they can do except for that heavy blaster, which is really bad. And Walker Assault game mode is one of the most popular ones, so I hope they will keep that as well. I also think it's worth bringing up that a lot of you said the 80TE, and that's basically like the 8080 equivalent of the Clone Wars. So if they do have the Clone Wars and want to have Walker Assault, the 80TE would be a perfect replacement for the 8080. And if we had a sequel era, I'm actually not sure. Did they have 8080s during the Force Awakens? I don't quite remember, but I'm sure there's some other big vehicles during that era that they could use for a potential Walker Assault. Again, we don't really know which eras will be in the game, so it's hard to speculate, but at least we have options throughout most eras now. Before I end the video, I just wanted to give a big thanks to DX Racer for sending over another chair that my friend Jimmy could use. As you guys might have seen in my streams, I'm already using a DX Racer chair myself, but Jimmy's old chair looked like this, so I thought it was time for him to get an upgrade. The chair is super easy to build and is very comfortable, as well as being very good for your back, so if you guys are interested, I will leave a link in the description below for you to check out DX Racer yourself. But that is gonna wrap up this video. I know there's a lot of more vehicles that you guys want, but these were the 5 ones that it seemed like you guys wanted the most. And in the next video I wanted to talk about top 5 planets that the community wants. So make sure to leave some comments below explaining which planets you want. It can be from any era, as I said, everything from the Old Republic to the sequel era, because I don't see any point in limiting ourselves to one era if we still don't know what the next game will contain. And then I will make another video talking about those planets, as well as my own thoughts on the planets you guys picked and if I agree or disagree with them. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to drop a like on it, as well as let me know in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, may the Force be with you.